My name is Ana Sabolić. I am a Croatian real-time artist and filmmaker. I am based in London in UK. Last couple of years I have been working in the domain of virtual production, where I create immersive real-time environments to achieve in-camera VFX for film, TV and commercials. Virtual production is a relatively new technology. It came across firstly in the time of pandemic, where we all watched Mandalorian and got obsessive with the idea of having giant LED displays around the actors and creative crew in order to achieve the best high-tech, quality directly in camera and not relying on post-production or a comp team later that much. My creative journey, I think, started very early with photography of the landscape. I think that eventually led to academy. So I have been lucky having a great painter in my neighborhood as a child. His name is Ivan Rabuzin, and he's one of the biggest naive painters of, I think, all time. And having him in the neighborhood, we were always aware as kids that it's possible to have life that is fulfilled with travel and exhibitions and making something that will stay for long. I think that fact really inspired us as kids. I started painting landscapes in high school, and with that portfolio applied to Academy of Applied Arts in Rijeka, where I very soon realized that I have to move to the moving image scenario rather than staying static. So I always experimented with animation. At that time, I think it was After Effects, the software that was really available to us, where we could easily start our sketching, converting them to digital movable forms. So I experiment a lot with animation and eventually a video format where I would go around, explore, capture, and put that in a short story in Premiere Pro. My final work at Academy was the master's degree work was the animation and graphic work in the subject of psychogeography. Psychogeography is something that I have researched for, I think, good 3 or 4 years when I was studying there, which is, funny because I later on moved to London, and all the books and all the researchers that I was looking, through that research, and I was like going through the work, they were all London based, which is all like very connected and happened very naturally. What I loved about the idea of psychogeography, why I got so obsessive about it, was the idea of wandering, the idea of flaneur, the idea of aimlessly walking around, not just from point A to point B, but really exploring part of everyday life. I think on that journey I captured a couple of thousands of photography and photos, and I don't even remember how many gigabytes of video content. So that was my final kind of graduation work at the Academy. Before that, I was very lucky to, and one of the, I think my favorite work from that part was our project in Graz, where it was called Turbulence, where we had a chance to collaborate with great artists and AI specialists in sound, transforming the 1 year of forecast information, forecast data into sound, that was eventually triggered by sensors that were placed around the gallery, and three of us visual artists, we were in charge for designing that space visually. This is where I kind of got intrigued by high technology. Until that point, it was quite a limited understanding on my side of what is possible with when you actually blend nature, that kind of flaneering wild element from outdoors, and the high technology that you can use in order for you to create something that you really are passionate about. After my study at Art Academy in Rijeka, I realized that I want to move forward with the experimental film and documentary form. So I have applied for University of West London another master's in experimental film and documentary filmmaking. At that time, I was very focused on learning the film structure, learning the language of film, and most importantly, getting introduced to the camera. We were very lucky studying experimental film, learning the history of experimental film and the film as art making prior to anything else. So we were able to create our work with that influence. I was at that university. One of my lecturers was Luciano Zubiliga, who is a great experimental filmmaker, and he was a great influence for me. So in that time, I think I was still not fully satisfied with my reach in creative field in terms of technology. I was very familiar with the 3D by looking just the apartment next to ours. So I think that kind of insight into having nature world and the storytelling, but in 3D, I just kind of got intrigued by it and started learning softwares on my own. For the couple of years after university, which was very successful, ended up very well, I was working with artists, and then who also inspired me to be one on my own and to kind of know how to approach to that world in London, because it was very different than from what I've learned in Croatia. You had to put that segment of being your own mentor at the same time, and there is not many people you can look after in community that is very fast-paced moving, that is very saturated with the creatives, and you really can learn a lot from them, but at the same time, at the end of the day, you really kind of have to mentor yourself in a way to progress. So my experiment started with software called Cinema 4D, where I started using the content from photogrammetry or just video that I have made and adding to the 3D objects. From there I started developing this moving image videos, and then applying more cinematics element to it, because I was always intrigued by that wide open landscape and cinematic look in the image. That led me to Unreal Engine and 2020, where I first watched Mandalorian and got intrigued by the idea of virtual production. Unreal Engine is allowing me now to experiment a lot, because I think I'm still in the phase of really experimenting with that technology and learning alongside other people who do that. At the moment, I'm now creating environments for my living. I enjoy it. I work with developers, gamers, directors, DPs, which are always kind of big influence for me. And I think that, you know, at the end of the day, creative work is a collaboration. So that kind of workflow and work energy really stimulates me to, you know, learn from them and then, you know, apply it to my work and eventually kind of made what I have to do for somebody. Latest studio that we have been shooting something on, it's in LA, Amazon Studios. As you can see, the amount of LED is huge. The volume is just enormous. This is how operating Unreal Engine on set looks like. You are just, you know, getting the commands from that supervisor and you making creative changes live on that LED wall, which sometimes is very stressful because you really don't want to make a mistake in front of 300 people on set. But at the same time, everybody's understanding that this is a new technology and sometimes it takes more than 30 seconds for something to be achieved. This is at BBC Studios in London. These are environments that I have made. This is a showcase for some of the clients that Final Pixel has. So yeah, this is how it looks when we're shooting. For us, Unreal Engine team, Virtual Art Department team, this is how our daily lives on set look like. We basically control whatever you can see on the LED. This was a test, one of the first environments at Sony Studios at Pinewood. Sometimes the LED doesn't have to be huge. That's what I wanted to show here, is that you don't have to have a giant LED to film, you know, a simple, smaller LED. Even your TV can work as a background, especially with the AI technology where you can extend that virtual background. What I like about making environments is really like creating that atmosphere element to it. So the goal is always to look realistic, but at the same time I think it's important that people who are looking at that environments as creative directors or DPs, they just have possibilities to create even more than what they could with just traditional filmmaking. So you really kind of extend that. Okay, so this is on one of the shoots that we have recently done with Final Pixel. Amazon Studios in LA. Part of the journey as an environment creator is when your environments have been approved and everybody's happy, including director, DP, producers, then you go on set with a crew and actually see your work on this LED giant displays. So very often you come and you don't see what you expect to see because it's very different from the screen. So basically it's like seeing your work sometimes even like 10 times enlarged than your screen. We very often have the content test days prior to the shoot. So this is the time where you would adjust, make those tweaks that are missing or might be misleading. And you have time to kind of adjust the lighting and fix the color, for example. It's very often different from your screen. And then after that, when they start shooting, when they start filming, you enjoy the creative process even more because you are surrounded by your environment on LED. It's, you know, there's no green screen. Actors can enjoy environment too, and you just on standby to basically check for final updates or upgrades on the content. As an environment artist, what I do is I take the creative director input and I try to visualize the 3D environment using creative skills, and you know, my background has been in art and graphics and painting, so what I try to do is use that influence and that approach with the technology in order to create something that is aligned with the visual goal, but at the same time optimized with the technology that we use on set. So very often I would start with drafting and later on move to a software that's called Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine has been used in gaming for years, and only recently, a couple of years ago, became a dominant software in virtual production domain. So now filmmakers are able to visualize their film, we call that service pre-visualization, entirely and fully before even going to set. So what we do is we take storyboard and we create environments and digital backgrounds for the film with the camera, with the zoom lenses, with the exact positions, with the character animation, with the, we call them meta-humans in Unreal Engine, characters that we are able to position exactly where the actors would stand one day on set. In virtual production, the sets are called volumes, and volumes are these giant spaces of, are surrounded by LED panels. LED panels are, you know, synchronized. They are synced in terms of color space, so they always produce the highest possible result when you look to the camera and you point with the camera to the LED wall. Very often those LED walls are having very high pixel pitch. For example, like 1.2 pixel pitch is something that we use in virtual production. Otherwise you would see, you know, the dots at a camera. To avoid that, the high-tech LED hardware is very important for our work. Before coming on set, what I do is I spend weeks, if not months, creating and programming and developing an environment that would eventually come on these giant LED walls. What you want to do is you try to maximize the visual quality, but at the same time create something that is optimized and has to run at a very high frame rate in order for camera to capture that from LED wall and to at the same time produce that final pixel in the recorded footage. My work starts with, like I said, drafting, sketching an environment where I am then able to move to blocking and to adding the assets that some of the great 3D artists have been making. When I collect all that assets together, I have to sometimes create environment that is accurate to the actual physical location. So I have to do a lot of scouting in terms of searching for the correct information that is specific to the location that director wants to shoot on. Sometimes those environments are very very fantasy oriented, so you have a bit of freedom in the scale and form of the final environment, final form of the piece. But very often those are actual locations. One of the reasons why to choose virtual production is that those locations are very often not accessible like for example polar environment or extreme heat environment or middle of rainforest, or just if you shoot something with the kids and they are not able to travel, you have to accommodate them in a studio with LED walls in that environment. So it's a lot of research prior to actual creating a scene. Once you start creating a scene, you are able to create the full lighting set, which is my favorite part, to create the color and the lighting scenario that is blended with the 3D assets that you have got from 3D artist. And after that you move to the phase of choosing the shots, choosing the camera angles, using the input from director or DP, having a lot of meetings with them directly. So on those meetings they're able to pre-visualize their final film, final product, and you are also able to downscale the number of creative changes that you would otherwise explore for sure. Unreal Engine is a real-time technology, which means there is no render time. You can use it as a tool for pre-visualization of your immersive exhibitions, of films, of animation. It saves you time on the render. You can screen record at HD quality and it will give you impressive results. It will allow you to change lighting setup directly in the real time with Lumen technology. Since the Lumen came up in, I think, 2020, it was a game changer for film industry, because now you are able to shoot, for example, a night scene for the period of a week or more, if you need, depends how much you need, but you are able to make those very subtle changes in the lighting, which is, as we know in photography and film, crucial part of the concept of the form itself. And you're able to make those subtle, almost invisible changes on set or before going on set, and you can achieve very realistic results. So it's all about the realism and about the quality of the display that is eventually leading the story in some way. Many of those environment changes and the lighting changes very often navigate the whole storyline of a film or a show or something similar. This is the work that I have done to pandemic in London, where I basically captured the footage of the locations that are very important for business locations in London, right? They're like the centers of economy, and I just went there and took hours and hours of videos of them being silent. Then I grabbed a lot of video work from it, and that kind of led into the idea of nobody knows what's happening, and that kind of reminded me of the idea of trying to put pieces together. So I've created this Rubik's cube, a cube that never kind of comes together. It's never fully put together, but whoever the player is, then trying to put the images together, put the videos together in a form of a cube, just for like a game. For the future, I think a approach to both nature and technology worlds from very like analytical point, and I think there is a lot to analyze still, and it will still be a path that I'm gonna follow. There is this like growing a part in me saying, move to the area where the nature is more accessible and bring that people together, so you can together maybe find some new ways and then apply into tech world. So I think in the future this element of bringing maybe sensitivity, an element of exactly that, like an element of compassion into digital worlds, onto digital screens, is something that I'm aiming for. When I see a lot of like commercial world or art world around us, to me it seems still very masculine and aggressive, and to some extent I get triggered by that idea of them being very kind of into your face, very very pushy, so you could as a human have to like band down over a brand or something that is very kind of capitalist oriented. So what I would like to do is create an environment, create a with a group of people a field for topics and research on how can we all contribute to that and make it really more humanistic rather than anything else. Trying to kind of say what is important to us, but not through the aggressiveness or through the very uninspiring media forms that we see nowadays. So especially with younger technologists, with creative technologists, and a lot of gamers that I'm working with, I see they have understanding of problems in this world, and I see that they know the technology, and now I'm thinking, okay, so how can we now make place for a living where somebody who understands and knows the technology and understands the problems, how can they use that in a way that is benefit for others, not how, because the fear is that this will go on the other side, and we now see that it does. So I think that's the place that I would like to kind of approach to. Like, for example, in virtual production, there's a huge potential of giving that resources to young students who can create their films in like a couple of days in one location, in one studio. So it's very accessible, it's sustainable, they don't have to travel, and at the same time it's inspiring for them, knowing that they can tell their story. So definitely I see myself in the still in that blend of technology, virtual production, and showing and telling the narrative, and from your life, from your experiences.
Evo ovako, to izgleda se